Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. There's a talking head video here today. I have officially ended the school year at my district. Um, Very pleased with how the year went, despite all the craziness with the COVID-19 shutdown and switching a shop class over to distance learning, which was such an arduous task. Luckily, my district was very progressive with how they did things, so it made it a little bit easier for me to take care of what I needed to. And I think the kids got about as good as you can get through online teaching. So uh, that's really what I'm here to talk about and celebrate. Right? This is really a video for all you new teachers out there, especially those of you who came into teaching just as all this stuff started. I've been teaching for a few years, but this has definitely been the craziest of them all. This was my first year, and I moved to a new district, um, which I've been so far extremely impressed by. When you get into the right place, you'll know it. When you're Likewise, if you're in the wrong place, I'm sure most of you will know it too. It's just like people. Every district's different. The way they run is different. Some will be a good fit for you, some won't. You might have to bounce around a little bit before you find a place you like. I've been lucky enough that I didn't really have to bounce around. Um, so, end of the school year, a lot of changes, a lot of things happened during the year. For me, was teaching entirely new classes for me. I teach a manufacturing course, I teach a carving and woodbending course. I teach creative woodworking, and I also teach like a introductory level high school woodworking course. And in the fall, I finally looks like we got running a construction and residential structures class, which are, I mean, they're all pretty standard classes, but I put my own twist on them, and that's really what you should do if you're a new teacher. Everywhere you go, people are going to tell you as a new teacher, hey, this is what we do, or this is what your predecessor did. It's great stuff. Here you go. Maybe you can use it. The mistake that many new teachers make is they try and recreate what their predecessors did. I'm going to tell you now, don't do it. It's fine to use their projects. I've done that with quite a bit of stuff. My predecessors at both the schools I've worked at were absolutely fantastic teachers. Um, it's okay to use the projects, but it's not going to be good, authentic learning. Okay, and that's something you'll hear me talk a lot about here. That's why I created this channel. Teaching by distraction is kind of my philosophy. If you can't make the work or the project or whatever you're assigning have meaning to your students, they're not going to get anything out of it. Okay? 90% of what we do, especially if you're an experienced teacher, you know this, is we form social relationships with our students in school. The curriculum comes second. Okay? The teachers that you see that are the most frustrated and burnt out and who do all of these different things and they don't understand why they can't control their classrooms, they have poor classroom management or this or that. The ones who, many of you who've gone through education programs, your professors and myself included will tell you to stay out of the staff room. It's toxic. It's true. And those teachers who put the curriculum before anything else tend to be the ones who struggle the most and the ones who don't do as well going through the system. Those are your ones that you see that after years of teaching, they just stop doing whatever they're doing. You know, they lose their passion. I'm happy enough to have not lost that passion at all, even though I'm still relatively new as a teacher. I've got plenty of years under my belt, but I'm not a 30-year veteran. If I was, I'd be retired probably. So those are things to think about if you're a new teacher going into this. Okay, we never expected having to switch to distance learning. That nobody saw that coming except for maybe a month or two in advance. So it was huge. Everyone scrambled. We all went crazy, and that's normal. Right? It happens. Uh, Part of being a teacher is being flexible, right? Being able to adapt. I don't remember, I can't reference it, but I read a study when I was doing my master's degree that basically showed teachers make more decisions in a 45-minute class period, so right, split second decisions, than air traffic control operators make in their entire day. Um, that's why you see a lot of teachers, myself in particular, when I'm talking, I kind of drop out for a second here and there. Um, I also, and it's from what I can tell, it's pretty common. Uh, I lose my train of thought very easily. That's why these talking head videos, the vlogs, and that kind of stuff, I'm working on them. I'm not. It's a very weird feeling talking to no one. I'm staring at a computer screen right now. I have no idea who you are that you're watching. Right? Obviously, unless you're a subscriber. Um, I have no idea who I'm talking to. Right now, I'm pretty much staring at a screen and talking to myself, which is the weirdest sensation I have ever felt. Some teachers, you may think that that's what it feels like if you're talking to a class that's not interested in a subject, but at least you can see facial reactions and all that. Here, I'm staring at a little green light on my computer that tells me the camera's on. And I'm basically talking to my own face in the screen here. So, starting up a YouTube channel was a very interesting move for me. Um, I wasn't really sure where to go with it, as I've mentioned. I just want to do cool stuff. So the way it seems to be developing so far, I haven't been able to make as much content as I wanted to at the moment. I just haven't had the time. Um, so I'm hoping to move in that direction. But making a YouTube channel, I think it's something every teacher should do because it's taught me a lot, even just about how I present to my own class. I can watch these videos and say to myself, oh, I don't like the way that I presented this, or maybe I'll tweak the way I speak about this. And that's just a couple videos in. I haven't really done a whole lot of this yet. I'm not a very computer savvy person. So I had to teach myself how to cut and edit videos and everything all by myself. Right now I'm using iMovie for this stuff. I'll, hopefully be able to advance to something a little bit better eventually. I want to raise the production value of these videos, make them a little bit more polished and streamlined. So somehow we've ended up on this topic. I was talking about new teachers, but new teachers, I highly recommend starting yourself a YouTube channel, even if it's just for you. I think I'm a little daring. It's, using one that's public and that some of the stuff I can actually use with my students. I know that's not really what I intended to use it for, but it's definitely something, like the material properties videos that I've done with the bow and that sort of stuff, replacing stairs. Those are things that I can use for my classroom. Obviously, I have to fill in the blanks, add a little bit of content to it and fill in the gaps because those videos are really just for entertainment. But you can add meaning to anything. So I absolutely love, and what inspired me to start up this channel is Dustin at Smarter Every Day has, I think, a fantastic channel. I think my videos, some of them have gone kind of in his direction. So I guess maybe like I cut rate Smarter Every Day. But I also really like the moto vlogs. The person who really introduced me to YouTubing was a guy called Blockhead. He's a moto vlogger based in Florida, and he did some really cool stuff. He actually got me over my fear, and I taught myself how to ride a motorcycle after that. Took the courses and bought a bike. So I hope to do some moto vlog videos, that sort of stuff. Taking the MG out, I like doing that. So we'll get some new stuff in with that. But getting back to the point, new teachers. People are going to tell you to do a million different things. And what it really comes down to is, if you ever heard the term damn the torpedoes, I don't remember who the quote's from. It was one of the American naval captains. I actually think it was a fake quote, too, now that I'm thinking about it. But damn the torpedoes, you're going to be told to do a million different things, get pulled a million different ways. You'll probably get overwhelmed, and that's totally normal. Okay? I'm going to really emphasize that it's totally normal to feel lost, confused, and alone when you start teaching. It's why you need to find yourself a mentor that you work closely with. Um, Luckily, in New York State, there's actually mentorship programs for new teachers actually required as part of the tenure track. I don't know how it is in other states, but that's how it is here. So find yourself a mentor who you can use as a resource. Obviously, it's a little bit tougher if you're a special area teacher like me, where there might not be another tech teacher in your district. I'm lucky enough that I've always had another tech teacher where I work, both the districts I've been in, because it gave me someone to bounce ideas off of. I could say to them, hey, what am I doing wrong here? What do you think of this idea? Do you think this project would be good? Do you think that I could, do you think this would get thorough enough for what I want to do? Or do you think this or that? It's someone you can ask questions of, and they can rely on their experience to tell you, yeah, that's a great idea. Or, no, that's going to go wrong because X reason. So I've been very lucky with that. My first mentor that I had, I won't say their names because I don't know if they want to be mentioned or not. My first mentor really helped me with my personal teaching philosophy. I don't really get so much instructional mentorship from him on how to, do classroom management, but he really helped me out to kind of discover what kind of teacher I wanted to be. And what he told me, and this was awesome, my first year there, I'll never forget this. I said to him, I'm having so much trouble managing these kids. I was teaching 7th and 8th grade at the time. What do I do? And his answer to me was, you're being too democratic. Your biggest problem is you're not enough of a dick. And that's, for even though it's not the most polished way to present it, it's the truth. You have to be firm and stubborn with the kids. You should. I'm not one who lords their power over anyone. I don't think a teacher should demand absolute conformity from their students. I think that goes against everything that we do. But it was a really good way to put it. Sometimes, even if you don't want to be, you kind of have to put on this act and be a little bit of a jerk sometimes. It's the best way for the kids to learn, and it helps you out too in the long run, right? It may feel in your gut like it's maybe not the best way to go, but sometimes you have to. And what I found is that once I started being a little bit more of a jerk, and I should clarify what I mean by being a jerk is not caving in when the kid, wants to be upset about something or anything like that. Be there for them, but don't pander to them. They see right through it, and you'll lose total control of your class. So I got that advice from him, and I've held on to it ever since. The other piece of advice I got from him is the day that you have is going to be whatever you want it to be. If you come into school saying, oh, today's going to be terrible, this is going to be a bad day, you're going to have a bad day. It's just how it works. It's your attitude going in. The kids respond to your attitude. I can't stress that enough. They can tell when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're mopey, when something has made you absolutely ecstatic. They can tell when you're excited about what you're teaching. And I think that's a part of why my students seem to enjoy my classes so much. I came in this year and my classes had a fair amount of enrollment. It was a little bit lower because there was a new teacher coming in. The old one I had some huge shoes to fill. The guy was fantastic. The kids absolutely loved him. And when they heard that he wasn't going to be there and someone new was coming in, I think there was some doubt. And that's something that you'll run into. So I had to prove myself that first year. And what I said to myself was, okay, I'm going to do what I want and I'm just going to be me. I'm not going to try and fill his shoes. I'm not going to try and recreate what he did. I'm going to do my own thing and keep it just roughly within what that teacher did. And luckily, I think the kids really pick up on how excited I am to teach what I'm teaching. I absolutely love my job. I have the best job on earth. I get paid to make fun of kids all day, is what I tell them all the time. I am constantly joking with them. Humor is a huge part of my classroom. Um, I can't use my regular sense of humor because it's not really classroom appropriate. So I kind of resort to dad jokes and puns and just about anything you can think of that's school appropriate. They particularly enjoy sarcasm and being roasted when they're caught on something. Um, Obviously you have to be careful with that because some kids can take it and some can't. But that comes back down to the teaching philosophy, right? If your teaching philosophy doesn't allow you to do that, then you can't do that because that's when it goes from good-hearted fun and turns into bullying or something that's just not tasteful. It's tactless. So that's where, for me, my teaching philosophy is know your students. In order to know your students, you have to know yourself first. So that's I focus, and any advice I'll give you is learn what kind of teacher you want to be. Pick up your philosophy. Figure out what you stand for and what you believe in as a teacher. And what I found at my first job, I won't go into details of it, but I didn't even realize how terrible of a time I was having there until after I left. I was constantly full of anxiety. I worked with fantastic people, but I was under a lot of pressure and it was not a fun time. I didn't enjoy it. I loved my kids, they were fantastic, but the powers that be outside of the classroom, it became very anxiety provoking. And leaving ended up being one of the best things I ever did. I found a new district and I've been doing awesome things there. And what I realized is after I stopped trying to please everyone and I just decided to do what I think is right and how I think things work best for the kids, I overnight became a way better teacher than I ever was in the beginning. So you need to trust your instincts. We're teachers. If you have the degree, it means you're a trained professional. And there's a standard you had to meet in order to become a teacher. Are there bad teachers out there? Yes, there are. Typically, they involve a lot of PowerPoints and dittos. At least in my experience, that's what I've seen. I've mentioned in the past there are two types of teachers. Um, Maybe we'll talk about that in another episode. But I'd want to try and keep these under 20 minutes apiece. Just think that's a better way to go. So, as a new teacher, learn to know yourself. One of the things I did was I looked at, there's a website called 16personalities.com. It's a Myers-Briggs test. That's all it is. It takes 10 minutes to do, and I'd highly recommend that you do it. They're not paying me or anything. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm doing this purely for myself. You can get, and I was surprised, it's a very, very accurate read on what kind of person you are. And based on your personality type, tends to be what kind of teacher you end up as well. I find there's a couple types that seem to suit themselves really well to teaching. So know yourself, and then you can know your students. Because you can't impose yourself on them. That's, to me, one of the worst things you can do as a teacher is to impose. We're not there to be disciplinarians. We're there to be, I don't know what word I'd like to use. We're there to show them how to go down their path, not what path to go down. We're there to be mediators. We're there to be mentors. We're there to ensure their safety, and we're there to allow them to experiment and learn about the things they want to learn about and what they're interested in a controlled environment. So we're letting them make mistakes in a way that won't let them harm themselves or others. Everybody learns at their own rate. They either learn in school or they don't. You do everything you can to help those kids out, but you can't impose your own will on them. Okay? That's really the best advice I can give. I know my philosophy very well, but it's very tough to put into words. I can really only show it through examples and talking about things. So, that being said, I hope this is helpful. New teachers, best of luck to you. I'll be posting up more videos like this. I'll be probably doing some more stuff that's more teacher and pedagogy related. I want to do a little bit of a series on that, something more polished than this kind of talking head video. This is purely off the cuff. I don't have any notes written. I just sat down and said, hey, I'm going to talk about something today. It's the last day of the school year for me. So I've got grading to do. I've got report cards, all that sort of stuff I got to finish up. But it's the end of the school year for me, which means I can sit back and I can have something nice and cool and refreshing. I can relax and I can finally get on to finishing moving into this new house. I can get the motorcycle back together. There'll be some videos on that. I can start taking the MG back out. And I can start doing some more work around the house here to fix things up and get it how I want. So we got a lot of stuff that can be done. When I don't have the opportunity to do regular videos that involve a lot of editing, I'll do ones like this. I'm going to make that series on teaching philosophy and learning how to do classroom management. There's a million books out there for that stuff. I found they were all a load of crap. It's just like everyone's opinions. You know, I'm not going to repeat the saying, but you probably know which one I'm referring to. Everybody's got one. Some of them work. They work for that person, and that's what matters. You know, there are people that benefit from those books. You know, there's some great stuff out there. But everything I've learned about classroom management and my teaching philosophy didn't come from books on education. They came from books on philosophy. You know, some of them are, I'd even say, almost religious. Shintoism and Taoism, Confucianism, all that sort of stuff. Very, very Eastern philosophies that people consider religions, but they're really more of a philosophy and a way of life, that kind of stuff. We'll talk about that another time, but that's how I got into my teaching philosophy, and it's how I think everyone should teach, right? Find yourself. Right? Don't impose on others. Find yourself. Form bonds with your students. Then worry about curriculum. That's the essential. So we're going on a few minutes here. So I will cut this short for today. Be on the lookout for more content. If you happen to be one of my students watching this, I hope that you enjoyed the end of the year. And going from there, I'm looking forward to seeing where this channel goes. If COVID-19 spikes back up again, then I'll probably be doing a lot more videos a lot more frequently because it's what I'll need to be doing to help do distance learning. It's really tough to teach shop class when you can't send tools home to your students. I actually have a couple students that I had some graduating seniors that I sent some stuff to, did some really, really fantastic work. Had a couple other students that were interested in what I have to say and what I have to teach. So I lent them some books. I picked up some woodworking books that I thought were really good and sent them out to a select group of students that I felt would really benefit from them, that were interested in them. And I think that's something that, as a teacher, you shouldn't be afraid to do. You know, I got their addresses off of School Tool. I I was going to drop it off to them at school to go through the regular system, but that didn't work out for a couple of them. So I ended up having to use their address, and I just UPS'd a couple books to them. Obviously, I used not my home address as my return address. You never want anyone knowing where you're living. Just because you never know what kind of people are out there. Even if the kids are trustworthy, you never know what the parents are like. You never know what relatives are like. You never know anything. That's just the way it is. You got to protect yourself. Even if the kids are awesome, you got to protect yourself. And I talked to most of these kids' parents, so I wasn't really worried about that. The parents are fantastic too. But you can never exercise too much caution. It's an unforgiving job. One slip up can cost your entire career. It's unfortunate, but it's true. As a teacher, you're held to a very high standard, and you can't turn that standard off. You can't go home and check out and say, okay, now that I'm home, I'm going to be a complete scumbag. You can't do that. I don't see why you'd want to anyway. I don't see why anyone would want to really be kind of a scumbag. But there's a lot to think about. So I'll make some more organized videos. This is really just kind of a rambling thing. just to commemorate the end of the school year. So stay tuned. We'll have some more content coming up in a few weeks. My goal is to start doing at least one video a week. I don't know if I'll be able to make that goal yet or not. I've got a lot going on, just with moving and catching up on stuff over the summer. But that's my goal. I want to try and do one video a week, and that'll be a lot easier to do once the new school year starts up, because then I can start doing stuff from my classroom. How to use different tools, make different joinery, all that sort of stuff. Might do some product reviews. One of the things I'm very strongly opinionated on is that if you want to test the quality of a tool, you put it in the classroom. It will never be abused more than that. So that's where we're headed. I hope that's interesting to people. I know it's interesting to me. I geek out on a lot of this stuff. And we will go from there. Until next time.